Oh, there you are.
Let me try it one more time.
I can hear you now.
Perfect. All right. It's
How's
good
it
right
going?
now? Oh, it's wonderful. How's everything with you?
Good, thanks. So for anyone who's on now, I'm Georgette. I'm the founder of Through Your Fitness, and I'm here with Dr. Jamil Sayegh. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself because chances are you are going to do it a lot better than I can. So just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you so much, Georgette, for having me. Really appreciate it. Really happy to be here with all of you. So hey, everyone. I'm Dr. Jamil Sayegh. I'm a licensed naturopathic physician here in Arizona, and I'm also a transformation coach. And my life's mission is to help leaders and high performers to eliminate regret. And for the past 14 years, it's been my obsession to figure out how to create an extraordinary life for people, a life of vibrant health, of passionate relationships, of massive success on your terms, and ultimately lasting fulfillment. This has been my mission. This lights me up more than anything else. And again, I'm really excited to share this space with all of you today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a lot of one thing that we have in common as far as like what we do for work is we have to deal a lot with mindset. For us, like our goal is always to kind of improve people's relationship with food, but in that, there's almost kind of requires a little bit of a shifted mindset around, positivity and success and whatever else. So could you just tell me a little bit more about like what are the more important mindset shifts that someone has to make in order to be successful or in order to achieve like any goals that they have?
Yeah, great question. So when it comes to any goal, whether it be nutrition or fitness or business or relationship, whatever it is, there's certain similar steps that you need to take. And the first one is always you have to know what it is that you're trying to do. A lot of times people are very vague when it comes to what they're trying to do. So somebody might tell you, you might say, Mary, what's your goal? What do you want to do? And Mary tells you, Georgette, I want to lose weight. But it's too vague because what does that mean? Do you want to lose water weight? Do you want to lose muscle? Do you want to lose fat? There's a lot of ways you can do it, but they may not be equally sustainable. So you have to be really clear on what you want. And this could be, if it's weight loss, for example, I want to lose 30 pounds in the next 3 months. And now you have a deadline. Now you have an idea of what you want it to be. So we know what we want. Then we have to know why. We have to know, why does it matter? What's your intention behind it? I know in my experience, people might say they want to lose weight. Now, is the reason that you want to be healthy, you want to be fit, you want to have energy, you want to sleep well, you want to live long? Well, that's wonderful. Or is the reason more of an insecurity where it's, I want to look a certain way so that I fit into other people's molds of what's expected of me? That's a whole nother ballgame right there of mental work that needs to be addressed because it's not about the weight. So now we know why you need to do it. We know why it matters because when you fall off, when you run into hard times, what keeps you going? What's the reason that's pulling you? So you know what you want specifically, you know why it matters, you know why you're doing it, you have a good intention for it. And then you come up with some type of plan where you say, okay, if it's food, let's say, am I going to be cooking? If I'm going to cook, am I going to meal prep? If I'm meal prepping, what day? If I'm going to go food shopping, am I going to have a list? Am I going to go to the grocery store hungry?
Right.
Some people run into that. And when you have an actual plan, a strategy, you can actually act it out. So if you know what you want and then you know why you want it, you actually have a plan, then it brings accountability into the mix, which is that next step. And there's 3 types of accountability. The first one is personal accountability. You tell yourself, I'm going to work out. I'm going to eat this way. But the person that most people break their promises to is themselves.
Right.
And so most of the time, most people have a hard time keeping their word to themselves. So because there's this idea that we judge other people based on their word, but we judge ourselves based on our intention. So other people will tell you, Georgette, I promise you, I'm going to do this. And then if they don't do it, you might look at them and think, well, you promised, you gave me your word. It's a big deal. But if you told yourself, I'm going to go to the gym today, but then 15 things come up along the way and you don't go, you give yourself a pass. You sit there and you say, oh, but I got busy, this happened, this happened. So personal accountability isn't always ideal. Then the second one is having a coach, doing something that you do, something that I do, where somebody has somebody else in their life that they don't want to let down. Somebody else that's going to hold them, in a sense, to the fire and make sure that they do it for their own good. And what ends up happening is that, generates massive results, and that's wonderful. And then the third accountability is peer accountability. I like to call it fearless accountability, where you'll sit there and you'll make a list. Who are the most important people in my life? It could be your friends, your family, your spouse, whatever it is. And then you message every single one of them and you tell them what you're doing. You tell them what your goals are and you say, I'm going to have this done by this date. I promise you. And I need you to please ask me, how's it going? And hold me accountable to it. Mm-hmm. I've had people even make a social media post where all of a sudden, everyone, thousands of people on their friends list now know that this is what they're doing. And every day they have to post what their progress is. Well, you better believe with that level of accountability, whether it be to a coach or to a group of people, it's now bigger than yourself. And now you have a reason not to let all those people down. Because not only does it make you look bad, but you don't want that to happen because you want other people to trust you and believe that your word is, worth it. And so you know what you want, you're real clear, you know why it matters, why it's going to keep you going when you run through the hard times. You have that plan, that strategy, accountability, and the last one is you have a way of measuring your progress. So some people, if they want to lose weight, are you just stepping on the scale and that's it? Or are you measuring body composition, looking at body fat percentages? It's like, how are you measuring it? How often are you measuring it? And if you're measuring it at intervals, regular intervals, you'll see the progress happening. So in any area of life, if you go through all those steps, you're guaranteed to get a result. It's just most people don't go all the way through.
Yeah, so one of them is being very clear about what your goals are and like being sort of honest with yourself as far as figuring that out, and then also just kind of having the accountability in addition to that.
Yeah. Have you found that to be true with your clients?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of the people come to us, like we offer a free ebook on our website about like how to calculate your macros and how exactly to like set your hydration goal and whatever else. But the value in what we do, I think, is like the coaching. It's the accountability. It's the support system. It's just having someone to help you and guide you and sort of to be your person. And I think that's kind of where all the value is. And the reason for that is because like it really is super effective. Because like you said, like we're very good at letting ourselves down, but not very good at letting other people down.
Especially if you have kids, for example, I've had a lot of success with this, where what happens if you have like a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old and you tell them, I promise, we'll do this. Yeah. They're going to say, if you let them down, but you promised. And now you have two options. Either you're a horrible parent in your mind or you do it. Yeah. And it's that kind of accountability that they're giving you that gift without you maybe even being conscious of it. You said you were going to do this, I'm holding you to it. And in that same way, if you can do it for yourself, awesome. If you need help, go get it. And if you want to take it even a step further, get help, but also hold yourself accountable to a large amount of people.
For sure. Yeah. So what are some important things that could help shift mindset about food? I know that's kind of a vague question, but just kind of in your realm of expertise.
So I think a big thing is people need to see food for what it is. And what I mean by that is food itself is neutral. If I put a plate of food in front of you, it's just a plate of food. Right. But most people, what it really is it's a story. It represents a story they tell themselves that if I eat this, it means X, Y, and Z about me. And then they shame themselves or they guilt themselves, and they create this whole like stress response in their system that is now going to make it where they're more likely to gain weight. They're more likely to be inflamed and be in pain. And it's like they're way worse than if they just ate the thing and enjoyed it. Now they've made it so much worse, and they might eat it on top of it. So it's seeing the food for what it is. The food, first and foremost, it's fuel. After that, it could be a social experience that you're having with people. It's going to give you energy, or depending on what you're eating, it might rob you of energy. But the key here to me is controlling what you eat the majority of the time, more times than not, eating food that's going to move you in the direction that you want to be in. If you're doing it more times than not, then you're doing great. Right. And then it really comes down to, rather than allowing the food you eat to control your life, just control what you eat most of the time. And if you can make it enjoyable. I always had people telling me when I was growing up, because when I was 14, I made this shift into eating healthier. I didn't dive deep immediately, but over time I started making big transitions. And a lot of people would see what I was eating, and because from their perspective and their past experience, healthy food didn't taste good. Right. So they would say, why are you depriving yourself? But then I would show them like what I'm eating, and I'd have them taste it because I made it. And they would say, wow, this is delicious. And if you know how to prepare it, if you know how to season it, There's no deprivation. You can really enjoy it. And then every now and then you want to have that pastry, you want to have that little ice cream thing, you want to have that fun thing with your friends. There's no guilt here. There's just, it's just life. It's just enjoying it, but keeping yourself on track most of the time.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think like one of the worst things that people can do is self-restrict, because, you know, either one of two things happens: or like completely miserable and they feel like they're not enjoying their life, or they sort of, something comes up, whether it's a social event or a craving or whatever else, and they have that food, and then they go through this entire emotional experience where they're like, they've let themselves down, they feel guilt. But also, like, what we found is like people will kind of go through, well, like, I'll start again on Monday. So like now I'm going to take advantage of eating everything that I told myself I couldn't eat. And it ends up kind of putting them back a little bit more because because of this mindset around food. Whereas like, I completely agree with you. You know, if you're keeping 80 to 90% of your diet healthy and whole, that other 10 to 20%, the stuff that like allows you to enjoy your life and enjoy social experiences, is really kind of going to help your long-term progress more than hurt it. So just kind of taking away like the moral weight of like a certain food and seeing as fuel, I think is super important.
I love the way you worded that. Just the idea that people will say, there's this effect, like you're at a party, let's say, and you've been really restrictive with yourself, but you know, in an excess, like unhealthy resistance kind of way. So you get to the party and there's all this food and you're using willpower and you're just trying to fight your way through not eating any of this, and you're causing yourself a lot of mental suffering. And then if you end up, you know, what people would think, like giving in, caving, whatever they want to call it, you eat the thing and then you tell yourself, oh, well, it's Friday night. I ruined it. I ate this. I might as well, you know, have the whole slice of pizza, the whole pie of pizza, even though I had a slice. And so then, as you said, you get further away from your goal. You know, it's like just as a little parallel, I remember like hearing stories, you know, in Europe, they don't have, when kids are growing up, a lot of families aren't as restrictive when it comes to, let's say, alcohol. So it might be, oh yeah, you know, you're 15, you're 16, you want to try it, you have a little sip of this or a sip of that, and alcohol is not some taboo thing. So now you become 18, 19, 21, and it's not the same as in the US, where everyone now is going crazy, wanting to go drink and everything. Alcohol's kind of been in your life for a while, and it's just like water. It's just like juice. It's something that you can just have occasionally. But when you get told your whole life it's bad or don't do it, now it's like you want it more. And then you eventually kind of go crazy with it. And it's in the same kind of way when you restrict yourself, eventually, if you do finally give in, that willpower is going to break eventually. That's why willpower isn't sustainable long term.
For sure. And I really like that parallel. And then sort of kind of switching gears a little bit, how about like emotional eating? So people who, and I'm victim to this sometimes too, where I just kind of let my emotions get the best of me and will look to food for comfort. Like, how do you handle things like that? How do you almost kind of take away the emotional attachment to food?
Yeah. So it's really interesting too, because I don't think the emotional attachment is the problem. I think that, you know, there's some people, for example, if I have them close their eyes and visualize Thanksgiving at grandma's when they were 10, something like that, it's a very, you know, beautiful experience. The food was a part of it. It's all a wonderful thing. I think the issue comes in when we label ourselves as, I am an emotional eater, when the truth is that is not true. You have a habit of emotional eating. You have emotional eating tendencies. But what is emotional eating? Emotional eating is a coping mechanism for you dealing with and processing through certain emotions. And so when we understand that it's really just a habit, you have convinced your mind for a long enough period of time for it to become a habit that when I feel a certain way, I eat and then I feel better. And when we really break down what a habit is, there's three parts to it. There's the trigger itself. In this case, it could be you're feeling really stressed out. It could be something happened in your life where now you're grieving through something. Whatever the situation is, you have the trigger. Then you have the behavior, which in this case would be eating. And then you have the third part of the habit, which is the reward, which when it comes to food, it might give you, depending on what you eat. You know, usually when someone's emotionally eating, they don't typically go for, you know, the celery and the kale and the almond butter. And so whatever they're going for is usually going to give them that sugar, salt, and fat. It's going to give them that dopamine hit, and it feels good. So you're rewarding your brain, and your brain is like, okay, when I'm feeling depressed, I go for that, you know, pint of Ben and Jerry's, and that's it. That's what I do. But the thing is that if you can, how do you break a habit? You break a habit by identifying the trigger, what that emotion is, identifying what the reward is, in this case, feeling better, and then figuring out, okay, what behavior can I replace this with? So instead of emotional eating, what if you, and this is different for everybody, but what if you went for a run? What if you weight trained? What if you did a quick breath work exercise? What if you went out in nature and went for a walk? What if you jumped in the pool? You took a 30-second ice cold shower to just change your physiology, change your physical state really quickly. And you'll find that when you do that, that urge to eat would go away. It's because you don't emotionally eat because you're hungry. You emotionally eat because you feel that you need the food to get the feeling because you've trained yourself to do it. But if you can try other things, and it's not somebody might say, oh, you know, I tried that before and it didn't work. It takes a habit about 66 days to really integrate. So it's not that you tried it once. Try doing it consistently. Try incorporating different routines, different behaviors, and seeing what really gives it to me. It could be journaling. It could be prayer and meditation. It could be you calling a friend real quick and saying, you know, I was about to open up the freezer and grab that pint of ice cream, and I'd like to talk about it. And now all of a sudden, if they're, you know, if you talk about it ahead of time, that they're open to that. You have a conversation and then you feel better. They took you through it. There's all these things. If you're their coach, they call you. There's so many things they can do to just avoid that downward cascade.
Yeah, for sure. And so coming off of that, does that thing need to be something that person finds therapeutic, or does it need to be something that, like, how does someone know, like, what that replacement should be?
So again, that's why I said it's going to be different for everybody. It really comes down to, first and foremost, maybe what's already in your life. What do you enjoy? I know people that love to run, for example, that let's say running for them is their meditation. Running for them is so therapeutic and it relaxes them and de-stresses them. So now imagine you emotionally eat when you're feeling really stressed out. And as you're about to go for the food, you just pause real quick and you realize, all right, I have about 30 seconds here to really make an impact on what I'm about to do. And you just put your running shoes on and you go out for a run without even really thinking about it. And before you know it, you're out on the street and you're running. And you're going to finish the run and you're probably not going to eat after that. But it really is going to depend on the individual, what they already find therapeutic for sure. Or it could be something that they haven't done, but they want to try it. That's like kind of that cold showered idea, jumping in the pool kind of idea, something to really just change up what they're doing. Because when you think about it like this, when the craving comes, it really will only last for a short period of time if you quickly do something else. But if you sit there and you just think about it, if the cookies are in the drawer and you stare at the bag of cookies and you fight it saying, I shouldn't, begin with,
right. That helps.
Coupled with do something else that's drastic. I feel like that's the recipe for success in the short term.
Gotcha. I like that. That's really good. And so kind of coming off of that a little bit, how do you sort of define behavior-based goals and outcome-based goals? Because like we have an intake form at Fuel Fitness, and like we ask people about their goals, and typically they're very outcome-based in the sense that, you know, they always just, you know, I want to lose 10 pounds of fat. I want to put on muscle. I want to get stronger, or whatever else. But those types of goals don't tend to term. So can you just tell us a little bit more about the difference between like behavior-based goals and outcome-based goals, and how to, you know, how one can be more effective than the other as far as like goal achievement?
Sure. Yeah. So if I'm understanding you correctly, let me. An outcome-based goal could be something like, I want to lose 50 pounds, and a behavior 3 times a week. Is that what we're getting at? Very useful to have. I think that the ideal way to do it first you come up with the outcome-based goal. what are you working towards? Hello, whoever that is. What's like, what's the outcome that you're actually going for? I like to think about it as you want to start with the end in mind. Where do I want to be 1 year from today? And if I have the clear picture, okay, this is the amount of muscle I want to have, the amount of weight I want to lose, this is the kind of relationship I want to have, the business I want to have, the income I want to have, whatever it is, you get really clear on the outcome. Mm-hmm. Then you reverse engineer it and you say, okay, if this is what I want, what do I need to do this month? What do I need to do this week? And you really break it down. So if we make it a 1 year goal, let's say, where would I need to be at 6 months to be on track to be there at 12 months? Mm-hmm. And then we might say, okay, 6 month goal. How about 3 months, 1 month, and then break it down by week? And now all of a sudden, this is what I need to do every week. So now you don't have to think about, I want to lose 50 pounds. That's not important anymore. The only thing that matters is I'm going to cook 3 healthy meals a week and I'm going to go to the gym 4 times a week. And that's all you think about. And then the goal happens. But I feel like that to me is going to be the best way to do it, because if you just do one of them, if you just did the outcome and you didn't do the behavior-based goal, all right, I want to lose 50 pounds. Great. But I don't know how. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, week by week by week, I'm not really clear on what I want. I don't have the why that we talked about. I don't have the plan. And now it's like 6 months go by. I'm not measuring. So I don't even know if I'm on track.
Right.
But and then if you just had the behavior goal, that would get you results. If you were just going to the gym multiple times a week, eating really healthy, practicing mental work, doing, investing, whatever you're doing, you'd get results. But it's like you're driving around and you don't know where you're going. Mm-hmm. So you're not necessarily moving toward a goal. You're just behaving.
Yeah. I almost think of like an outcome-based goal as like a mountain, right? And it's almost kind of like you don't really know how to tackle it. You know that you want to get to the top. But the behavior-based goals, the reason I like them so much is because it's very black and white. Either you did or you didn't. You went to the gym 3 times that week or you didn't. Ultimately, like the behavior-based goals are things that are in your control. The outcome-based goals are not. So like, you ultimately don't have control of whether you're going to lose 5% body fat, but you do have control as far as like, can I go to the gym 3 times this week?
Absolutely.
So I think that helps a ton. And I agree that having like the outcome-based goal is important and it gives you your why. But the behavior-based goals, I think, is like really where the grit and where the action happens.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I want to kind of open up to like, if anyone has any questions, as far as, for Dr. Jamil about like mindset or nutrition or whatever else, if you guys want to ask them now, that's awesome. Otherwise, like, do you have anything else to sort of add that maybe I didn't ask?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, the phone, I had it placed somewhere and it fell twice. So it's okay though. I'll just hold it. And so I think something that's really important to add is there's a level of self-compassion that I think is so important that often gets missed. Mm-hmm. And I want you to think about it like this. If we imagine that you're riding a horse and you fall off the horse. And so there you are on the floor and the horse is, staring at you and the distance that you want to get to is ahead. And you can sit there and tell yourself, well, the thing is, the only thing that matters in that moment is you're on the floor. And the next thing that matters is what are you going to do next? Now, you can sit there and look at the horse and the horse looks at you and it says, all right, I'm ready when you are. And then you just get up, get on the horse, and within seconds, you're riding again and where you fell is behind you and you're making progress and you're closer than you were before. And now that thing, that fall was in the past and now it's over. That would be, let's say, something that's a practical approach. Or you can do this other approach where you fall off, you look at the horse looks at you, and the horse is like, I'm ready when you are. And you're like, well, I fell though. And the horse goes, yeah, but I'm ready. Just get up whenever you can. And you go, no, it can't be that easy. Yeah. and then you don't understand. And then it just turns into this whole thing when you're not realizing that as you sit on the floor, you're telling yourself a story and you're believing the story that you can't get up and you can't do anything about it. And it's only true in your mind. And the thing is, when you can get up and you move forward, that's when you can utilize the past to learn from it, not to beat yourself up over it, not to give yourself a guilt trip over it. You can focus on right now. You can focus on the next step, and you can actually get the results that you want to get. I feel like that practicality is needed to get
For
you the
sure.
results you're looking for.
And I think like with nutrition especially, it's like it's very much for a lot of people like 100% or nothing. So like when they fall off track or whatever else, what happens is like they just get so upset with themselves, and they almost kind of feel like they undid all their progress. It's something that I hear very often from clients. Like I feel like I undid all my hard work. But like anything in life, honestly, it's 100% about progress and not about perfection. So like just like what you're saying, like just being compassionate with yourself, understanding the fact that like things are not going to be perfect. There are going to be days where your nutrition is off track, and there are days that's important. Like there's sometimes it's more important for you to like have ice cream with your kid and it doesn't fit your macros. You go to a wedding and you want to celebrate and you're drinking and whatever else, like that's part of life. And like that, if you're going to kind of understand that as falling off the horse and ruining your progress, and you don't need to start back on Monday or in after the holidays or whatever it is, that sort of mentality really just kind of holds you back.
I love how you put that, and I'm going to add that it'll never be perfect. And there's this idea that we sit there and we look at it and we beat ourselves up if we don't get it exactly right all the time, versus again focus on somebody that takes care of yourself most of the time. If you eat well most of the time, if you sleep well most of the time, you're going to have a great life.
Right.
But it's the not doing it most of the time. You do it a little bit, and then you get curious why you're not getting big results. For
sure. And then so like we have a question that came in. So like, and I guess we can both tackle this together, but what do you recommend for, I think the question is like in social situations. So when there are parties and things like that, how do you sort of navigate those types of situations as far as like alcohol and food and things like that? So do you have any insight as far as that?
Yeah, so I can tell you what I do. And so it really depends on knowing, I guess, where you're going to go, but also, again, that self-compassion. If I really know for sure that where I'm going, not necessarily like I'm not going to a dinner, let's say I'm going to a party, and it's like, buffet style, everyone's just kind of eating. If I know for a fact that there really isn't going to be any food there that I'm going to want to put in my body, well, depending on what I feel like doing, I might still go and I might eat it if it's like I don't want to restrict it in that way. Or I could just eat ahead of time, and I could eat something that would really nourish me and fill me up. And then when I go there, I can just socialize and have a great time. But it really depends on if you're going to eat ahead of time, great. And if you're not going to eat ahead of time, there's usually options. And so it's like do the best you can with what you have kind of thing. There's usually things that you can eat there that are closer to healthy than not. And so you go with that. Or if you're there and you go, you know what? It's a birthday party. Everyone's having cake and you want some, just go for it. Enjoy the cake, have some fun, and don't have cake, tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. It's everything in moderation. And I guess like, success vibes, if you're asking about like alcohol in particular, obviously you want to stay away from like super sugary drinks like pina coladas or like IPAs and things like that, things that are super high calorie if you do have a goal to lose fat. But again, everything in moderation. So if you do want to have like tequila or vodka or whatever else, like you have that one drink, and then like after that maybe you have like a sparkling water with lime, so that way you still kind of feel like you're part of the social situation, you feel like you're drinking, but you're not necessarily putting in all those empty calories and slowing down your fat loss progress. So like again, you always want to focus on like moderation. You never want to say like I want to cut alcohol out forever until like I get to my goal body weight, because like ultimately that's probably not going to be sustainable. So
I love that. That idea of, if let's say you don't want to drink, maybe either you don't drink or maybe you're just trying to cut back. Having a drink in your hand that could just be, as you said, sparkling water. It could just be water, but something is there, so you feel included. Other people don't necessarily look at you like, why aren't you drinking?
Awesome. And then so another question: what are your thoughts on appetite suppressants? I guess that's for both of us. I mean, the majority of people that come to me are actually under eating. So we put a lot of our clients through reverse diet. So like appetite suppressants are not something that like I think a majority of people need. In fact, I think that most people do not have a healthy appetite in the sense that they're not eating enough. But again, like we can kind of look through if you want to DM me, we can look through your specific stuff and talk about your personal appetite and things like that. But I mean, appetite suppressants, chances are like if you're eating healthy whole foods, 89% of the time, like you should have a, you should be full throughout the day, for the most part, because like obviously eating, you know, 100 calories of jelly beans is going to be about this much, but 100 calories of broccoli is about this much. So you're not really going to need to suppress your appetite if you're keeping your majority of your diet healthy and whole.
Yeah.
So, awesome. All right. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Jamil. I really appreciate.
Absolutely. Can I add to that last point you said?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's interesting. I agree with what you said about reaching out to, you know, a professional, because everyone's different. And if someone's got an appetite, let's say, that is ravenous and is just not getting, you know, you're eating food and you're still hungry to the point where now you think you need an appetite suppressant, there's a reason why that's happening. You know, I had a client who had a thyroid problem, and that's why you could have leptin resistance. There could be so many things going on where you're not getting the signal that you're full. And if you just medicate it without, you know, seeing a professional and recognizing why it's happening, it's a bad idea. So it's really going to be highly specific to the individual.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Awesome.
And I like what you said about everything in moderation. It's funny. I also, you know, from a humorous perspective, it's like in my experience when I was younger, I joke with people, I did everything in moderation food-wise too. It's like, you know, I had pizza sometimes, like once a week. I had KFC sometimes once a week. And before you realize it, everything is in moderation, and it's like everything that's bad is in moderation. And I have it all included every week. And so I think that there's definitely not being too restrictive and saying, I never eat that, or that's never going to happen. There's certain foods that, they don't really have a place in your body, but in the moment, if it's there and there's a reason that you can come up with to eat it because of the social situation, whatever it is, being ultra restrictive and giving yourself that stress response, that mental suffering, it's probably doing more harm than good. That everything in moderation, where you really do eat well most of the time, and you have what you might call a junk food or whatever sometimes, it really is a recipe to still win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. All right. I love your insight. Thank you so much for all of it. It was so good. And I hope we can do this again. Yeah, this was so fun. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the great questions. Yeah. Thanks, guys.